Less is only more when more is no good. This is a quote from American architect Frank Lloyd Wright, who lived from June 8, 1867 to April 9, 1959. Born in good old Wisconsin, Wright's mother, Anna Lloyd Jones, married William Wright. 2 years later, the Wrights moved with their son, Frank Lincoln Wright, to Iowa. The Wrights raised their child in Rhode Island and Massachusetts until they moved back to Wisconsin, where Frank attended high school, then later the University of Madison. Frank went to university to major in civil engineering, which is, according to dictionary.com, a person who designs public works as roads, bridges, canals, dams, and harbors, or supervises their construction or maintenance. To pay his tuition, Frank acquired a job working for the Dean of Engineering at the school and assisted architect Joseph Silsby on the Unity Chapel project. Frank then dropped out of university to work for Silsby in Chicago, Illinois. Wright then found better work for him with the architectural firm of Dankmar Adler and Lewis Sullivan. Wright was promoted to chief assistant to Sullivan and married Catherine Tobin in June 1889. Wright opened his own firm in 1893, and his business grew until 10 people were employed. Meanwhile, Wright's family with Catherine had grew to 6 children. Wright's first project for the firm was a house for Wb Winslow, and it ended up to be a huge success. The house attracted the attention of Chicago architect Daniel Burnham, who offered to financially support Wright for many years, only under one condition, that Wright would go to Europe and study to become the principal designer for Burnham's firm. Wright turned down the offer. But this difficult decision for his company managed to strengthen his determination to create a new and suitable design for Midwestern architecture. The Prairie School of Architecture was a trend where many people, including young architects, searched in the same way as Wright. In the year 1900, Wright was 33 years old and the chief practitioner of the Prairie School. It was widely recognized as a quote-unquote radical approach to building modern homes. Wright alone built about 50 Prairie houses in a range of 10 years. In 1938, 21 years before Wright's death, was the completion of what some people might say is Wright's most famous and beautiful home, Fallingwater. Curb.com states, set atop a waterfall in Bear Run, a summer camp in western Pennsylvania owned by the wealthy Kaufman family, the concrete and limestone home, entwined with the body of water that gives it its name, is a symbolic masterpiece, instructive of both Wright's philosophy and his single-mindedness. People also believe that Fallingwater revolutionized American architecture forever, not just all of the homes in general. Wright described Fallingwater as one of the great blessings to be experienced here on Earth, according to MyModernMet.com. There was a home that Wright had designed in Oak Park, Illinois, that he had given to Tobin as a wedding present. However, when Wright was designing a home for his neighbor, Edwin Cheney, Wright fell in love with Cheney's wife, Mama Borthwick. Tobin wanted to believe that Wright would come back to her and their children, but Wright had other plans. When both Edwin, Cheney, and Catherine refused to give their partners a divorce, Wright and Borthwick ran off to Europe and got married there. When Wright and Borthwick returned to the United States in 1911, Cheney granted Borthwick her divorce to him, but Catherine was still married to Wright. As Borthwick and Wright were excited about starting their lives together and leaving everyone in their past behind, an underpaid servant went mad, set fire to the building in which Wright and Borthwick resided, and killed 7 people, one by one. Among the dead were Mama and her 2 children, aged 10 and 12, which she had with Edwin Cheney. Wright then got extremely overwhelmed, and it took an entire 10 years for him to remarry. Once he became more stable, his second wife, that he married in America, was Miriam Noel. Wright built a very simple grave for Borthwick on the ruins of Taliesin I, where he built Taliesin II, which also burned down. The neighbors of Taliesin II helped put out the fire and also saved the art of the house. Miriam Noel left Wright. Then he met Olgivana Milanov, who would save him from further self-destruction. They married in 1928. Wright went through a period of self-assessment and generated a new style of Western houses, a quote-unquote new romantic manner evolved from California. Wright also tried to build cheap houses for the poor, seeing as it was the time of the Great Depression. Wright changed his style again. As Wright the grand social visionary, he gave many speeches, many at major universities. Wright also believed that capitalism should be distributed, not condensed into one mass. Wright lived out his life as a celebrity, as radio, film, and television were becoming more popular. Finally, on April 9, 1959, Wright died in St. Joseph's Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona, during an emergency surgery to remove an abdominal obstruction in his intestines. Frank Lloyd Wright died at 89 years old. Most of this may seem like it was just covering Wright's life in just a little bit of time, and I don't believe I thoroughly explained why I believe Wright's architecture broke barriers, but I will now. Frank Lloyd Wright's architecture broke barriers. Before Wright had begun to revolutionize American homes, buildings and houses were still being designed and built in the same design used for architecture in Great Britain. Wright brought a whole new perspective to American architecture, paving a new path to America's independence and individuality. Wright designed over 1,000 buildings and homes, each with a unique aspect to it. The styles that Wright used were later called Usonian, despite all the times that Wright's style had changed. And let's not forget here that Wright forged his own styles, and they were so unique and popular, they got names. For example, the Prairie School design, invented by Wright. So I guess, all in all, Frank Lloyd Wright led a pretty darn good life, and any aspiring architect should look up to him for centuries to come.